It's been over a year since we converted my STI into a 500 wheel horsepower beast. In that time, the STI has traveled the continent, and also the city, as an overpowered but insanely fun daily driver. I love having the flexibility to rip down the highway while also running everyday errands. The STI has been my daily driver for over a year now, and it's been great. There's absolutely no need to do any more modifications to this car. It's probably already modified more than it should be for a daily driver, let's be honest. But I live in a world on YouTube, and YouTube likes to see upgrades and modifications. I'm in a weird spot where this is my job. Normally, I would just call it good and move on with my life. But we all know that a build is never done. And with the justification of modifying for YouTube content, I say let's take this car to the next level. There's been some parts that I've been eyeballing for the STI. So we're going to start a new season of modifications on the car.
Now that the STI is all cleaned up, nice, fresh, and pretty, it's time to take it back to the shop and do some work to it. Because as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, fix it anyway.
Since this is my daily driver, I want to be adaptable to any environment. Quickly changing speed and direction can be important. It could even save somebody's life. If a pedestrian steps out in front of me, I need to make sure I can stop before hitting them. The brakes currently on my STI are good, but they could be better. Before we get into upgrading this car, we need to see what our braking distance is. So let's gather some data to get a baseline.
We're out here in this closed off parking lot. We have set a line right here, which will be the start of the braking test. Industry standard seems to be about 70 miles an hour. So we will bring up the car to 70 miles an hour, coast to this line, and then hit the brakes as hard as possible, going in a straight line. And the pavement is a little slick. It's some rocks and pebbles, very street-like. This is not a prep surface by any means. And we've measured out a couple increments of braking distances, so we'll see how long it takes for this car to slow down. And unfortunately, if it takes more than 100 feet, we've got some pedestrians in the way.
Wait. Okay, you got one.
Where am I at?
Two and a leg.
2 and a leg?
Yeah.
I can do better. I can do better. Let's do like best out of 5. Okay, I mean 2.5 people's not bad, right?
It's not great.
Yeah. Well, yeah. All right, I can do better.
Okay. Better.
Yeah?
Better, yeah. She's still not happy, but
Well, I mean,
you can live with that.
it's a lie.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
We're making progress.
That was terrible.
Yeah, not great.
The average stopping distance with its current brakes was 116.2 feet, which is clearly not good enough. In order to save people's lives, I think it might be time to upgrade my tires and brakes. And to kick off our life-saving modifications, Mark and I are heading back to the shop to dismount our tires.
All right, well, now that we have the wheels off of the car, it's time to go to the tire mount and balancing machine and mount some new, fresh, softer rubber. So these new tires are summer tires, which means they're gonna have more grip than the tire that I was running, which is an all-season. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the tires that I was running, the DWS 06 Plus. I drove to Alaska and back on a set of these, and I decided I love it so much that I got another set. Fantastic tire. But if we're trying to get a little bit more grip to save the pedestrians, let's go for a summer tire, which has got a lower tread wear rating of 340, which does mean that it will wear out a little bit faster than the all-season will, but it's gonna have more grip in the dry and also in the wet. Here in the state of Virginia, we don't really get that much snow here. I'm talking maybe one day a year. I don't think we got snow last year. So out of the other 364 days, it's either dry or wet, which is why I'm switching from the all-season tire to the dry and wet summer tire of the ExtremeContactSport 02. So yeah, excited for more grip and saving pedestrians. All right, now before we put this amazing looking new tire onto the car, we've got some more upgrades to do, which is obviously with the brakes. No, I'm not just talking about pads and rotors. We're actually gonna upgrade these things to a bigger rotor and a bigger caliper. And you might be thinking, well, what's wrong with that? It's a 4-piston Brembo. That's a fantastic brake setup. And it is, that's what all Evos run. But in 2018, Subaru decided that's not good enough. So they came out with a 6-piston caliper with a bigger rotor, much bigger brake pads, and that's what I've got. These calipers are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's bigger than my head, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely overkill for a street car, but that's what we're all about. So we're gonna put these on, and also the rotors are significantly bigger than what's on the car. And a bigger rotor means it'll have better heat control. It'll be able to dissipate the heat better. So if I'm driving on a mountain road or something, or hitting the brakes constantly with all these pedestrians jumping out in front of me, they won't overheat, which is a good thing. And then also, the caliper being bigger means we can run a bigger pad. It'll have more clamping force, and I can run a less aggressive pad, like what I've got here. And that way, I won't have as much brake dust on my wheels, but I'll still have the same amount of braking, if not more, because it's got more clamping force and more pad material. So it's a win-win either way. Even for a straight application, we're still getting an advantage off of having a ridiculously large brake setup. And it's OEM, so you know it's not gonna squeak and squeal and have all sorts of issues like some aftermarket calipers can do when you're driving them on the street, because big brakes are not generally meant for the street, but these are.
Also, just a quick side note, you may have noticed Mark a lot in our videos lately. That's because he's now officially part of the team here at Gears and Gasoline.
Today is my first official day at Gears and Gasoline. It's been going good so far. Quiet, calm atmosphere. But you know, I've kind of been used to that since I've kind of already been working for them and doing side things here and there, so it feels natural. So I got into mechanics back in 2006. I joined the military and I was a gas turbine mechanic. During my off time from the military, we'd get together, me and a bunch of friends who also worked down in the engine room with me, and we would tinker with cars. And back then I had a 1990 Mustang that I would always fiddle with. One of my best qualities is somebody can ask me to do something, and whether I know how to do it or not, I'm gonna get it done, and I'm gonna get it done right.
Mark's get it done right mentality is exactly what we need, because our projects are piling up. Mark has helped us a ton in the past already, and he's never afraid to get his hands dirty. Between changing transmissions on Ben's Evo trackside, swapping axles on my Civic between sessions, and even working on Subarus, I feel like there's nothing that Mark can't do. Even when we don't have the proper tools at our new shop to get it done technically the right way, Mark can always make it work, and sometimes that MacGyver mindset is exactly what we need.
Ben was telling me about the Subarus, how they'll over-tighten these bolts, and anyway, long story short, chunks of aluminum start to break down and get in the threads, and that's what we have here, so we'll have to pull out all that aluminum before we put the new caliper on. Now, moving into this new shop, we still don't have all the right tools, and when you don't have the right tool, it makes the job a whole lot harder. Obviously, we're not gonna reuse these rotors ever again, so I can just kind of whack away at it, but it is what it is. We got what we got. Yep.
All right, the new rotors that I'm running are absolutely massive, obviously. And you'll also notice they're drilled. And I'll be honest, that's just a mistake on my part. I ordered these PowerStop Evolution rotors because they have this really nice coating on them. The whole thing is coated, so it won't rust anywhere. When you hit the brakes the first time, it clears off the coating on the surface material. And I've ordered these before and they come as blanks, but for some reason for this car, they came with drilled in them. So that's fine. Kind of unnecessary for a street car. What it does, it helps release some of the gases and helps cool it down a little bit at the cost of reducing surface area a little bit. So I wouldn't normally recommend a drilled rotor for an application like this, but it's what we got, and it looks kind of cool, right?
Before the new calipers go on, the stripped out aluminum will need to be cleaned out of the threads of the OEM bolts. A painstaking task, but one that Mark is up for.
These things are just embedded in there. You saw me earlier trying to pick the aluminum out of this bolt and trying to clean up these threads. It was impossible. The right tool in this instance was a die, and it was a whole heck of a lot easier to put that on and clean up the threads. And now it should go on as smooth as butter. So now that we got the rotor and the caliper on, we're going to address the brake lines itself. But I know in video, it's a little tough to tell, how big this caliper is. So I have a banana for scale. Ben also got these stainless steel lines. These have a rubber coating on them to prevent any kind of nicks in the stainless steel and, improve pedal feel. So we're gonna go ahead and install this now. So these are the pads that came out of the old calipers. Obviously, you can see the difference. It does not have as much surface area as these new pads. Ben went for the less aggressive pad material so that it will cut down on brake dust. He seems to be a little lazy when it comes to cleaning, so this will help him tremendously, and he'll also not hit any pedestrians.
With everything installed, it's time to head back for a second round of brake tests, but this time with a completely overkill setup.
And we're back here in the parking lot to do another braking test. I have bedded in the pads and the rotors so that we are good to go. I have gone through that process off camera.
Just like last time, we have some innocent bystanders just past the 100 feet mark. So let's hope this car can slow down faster than it did before.
The previous test showed this result right here as our average braking distance. We're gonna see if we can improve on that. I think anything better than that would be an improvement.
116 feet is the baseline, but if we can stop under 100 feet, then we can save lives.
So we'll see if we can stop in under 100 feet from 70 miles an hour to 0. And I think the biggest difference is gonna be the tires, honestly, not necessarily the brakes, but going to a stickier summer Continental tire is gonna help slow the car down a lot faster because it'll have more grip. But we will find out if both tires and brakes can help slow your car down faster. Slower? So far it doesn't look much better, but tires are cold, brakes are cold. It's gonna get better.
A fluke. It's a fluke.
No, for sure. Yeah, no. Here we go. Test number 2. Yeah! One person!
That's what I'm talking about.
There we go. There you have it. Probably no surprise to you, but the car did slow down faster with bigger brakes and stickier tires. Complete shocker, seen here first on Gears and Gasoline, thoroughly tested and peer-reviewed our braking tests in this scientific closed-off location from 70 miles an hour to 0. Here's our average braking time compared to our previous average braking time. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. The big brakes were kind of a need, not a want. We do have a ton more stuff planned for this STI. We're waiting on parts to arrive, but we're doing a bunch of stuff with Continental Tire and improving this car even further. You might think, Ben, how can you improve this car even further? Well, you're just gonna have to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you can find out when I do it. But just a little hint, we're gonna do some visual mods because I think the car's looking kind of stock for what it is underneath.